Thank you.
Rewind, beginning. Go ahead and start.
All right, my name is Lee Baird. Thanks, Dave. I grew up here in Charleston. I'm friends with a lot of these knuckleheads.
Our sole purpose is to give you a hard time.
I can only imagine how bad it's going to be.
Okay. I was just making sure we were all on the same page.
Right. Oh, are we recording now?
We are recording.
That's awesome. All right, so this is definitely not a PowerPoint presentation. This is live. Get down and do it. So there's wireless here. You want to hop on it to start doing these exercises because you will need some internet connectivity to follow through. Dave, my friend here, has helped me with some of the scripts. He'll be walking around the class, so as we have problems and stuff, if you have questions, just raise your hand and we can come by and help you out. So this is Bash Scripting 101. I first started using Bash when I started getting into Linux back in about 2007, doing the offensive security training. It's basically from the very first video, Mutts is just pounding Bash into your head. And it's a great way to automate different processes. So when performing security assessments, it's very important that you have a repeatable process. As you become familiar with tools, you will want to incorporate them into your process. Bash scripting is a very easy way in which this can be accomplished. Learn how to read, edit, parse critical information that you will need, so on and so forth. You guys can read the screen. So anyone here is anyone here brand new at Bash scripting? Awesome. All right. If you're a guru, you might be bored, but we're going to try to do a little bit for everyone.
Oh, we're not going to be bored.
Not yet. So a very important thing to remember when scripting, not just in Bash scripting, there are many ways to solve a particular problem. There's no one right way. Whatever the way that works for you is your best way. Everything that you can do pretty much from the command line can be scripted. So we're going to be doing a lot of one-off exercises, which later hopefully we'll be able to build and build. And the eventual goal is to teach you how to build your own type of framework that works for your particular type of testing. So like I said, many examples in this class use different types of commands. These commands can be linked together for scripts and can be very powerful, which we'll see at the very end on some live demos. So the two types of editors, which I'm sure we'll get feedback right here that I like. For the command line, I use Nano. I'm sure everyone else uses Vi, as Martin laughs at me. Yeah, I'm surprised Dave can even spell Vi. But anyway, so right. So the command line, I like to use Nano. That's just my choice. And for the GUI, I use gedit. So there are different ways that you can start by creating a file. You can just touch and then the file name. So for example here, I'm going to whoops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So you can just touch file and the file's created, the file's empty. Other ways you can do this is you can pipe the output of a command. You guys should be following along. Okay, the other way is you can pipe the output from a command. As such. Okay, so you can append things to a file by doing the double ampersand. So for example, if I want to do a we should have both of the commands outputted to the same file. And this resolution is really low. Okay. Okay, so when getting into Nano, like I said, another way to create a file is with Nano. So you can just type Nano in the file name, and it's going to open up Nano right here. If you're not familiar with Nano, some of the shortcuts at the bottom, which I'll go over, really easy to navigate around. Control V is for the next page. Control Y, previous page. Control W, think of it as a find. They call it the where is. Control K will cut everything on the particular line that you're setting at, and Control X will be your exit the editor. So if I type something in the file and I want to save this, I'm going to hit a Control X, and it's going to say, do you want to save the changes? Just Y for yes. And you can either keep the same file name that you have or change it to a different file name. And there you go. Okay. Okay, so I just demoed how to pipe output to a file, how to append stuff to a file. So different ways that you can view files with cat, more, head, and tail. When you cat a file, it's basically going to see the entire file at one time. More, you're going to see a single page at a time. The Q option, so if you're going to go through a file, it might have 10 pages. You just hit the Q button, we'll exit out of that for you. You can head in the file name, and that's going to give you, by default, the first 10 lines of the file. You can also use a parameter with a specific line number. So for example, if I do a head minus 15 in the file name, it's going to show me the first 15 lines. Tail, it's going to show you the last 10 lines of a file by default, and tail minus whatever number you give it, it's going to show you that many lines. Like tail minus 15 will show you the last 15 lines of a file. Tail minus F is really good for viewing the output of logs. So if the log files are continuously generating, you do a tail minus F and then the file name so you can watch the file as it grows. Pipe. There's different ways that you can take the output of one process and feed that into another. So for example, if I cat a file which is named temp, and then I can grep for a particular string. Am I going too fast? All right. Martin's already asleep.
Don't sing video while drinking.
Okay. So for showing processes, PS AUX is going to show all running processes for all users. So and kill -9, and then the PID number will nicely kill whatever process that you want to run, and your PID number is right here in the second column. Scroll up to the top here. You can see the column headers. Like I said, the PID is in the second column. Okay. So let's do an example here. So we're going to open up 2 tabs for this example. In the first tab, we're just going to ping whatever domain you want. Let's make sure everyone's not pinging Google. There we go. All right. Open up a new tab, which is Shift-Control-T. And on this tab, you want to run all the processes, and then you want to grep for the ping that's running. So this is where we're going to pipe the output. Well, this is all the processes that are running. We can see that ping is the very last process down here. If we want to kill the ping, which is still running over here, we do a kill -9, then the process ID. Whoops. Verify that in the first tab. It should be done. Any questions on that? Bueller? Okay. Now, we can use the pipe command just like we were talking about earlier, how to pipe the output of one process into another. So if we want to combine that, we can do, let's see, let's go to the first tab. So we're pinging Google. So let's go over to here. Let's do a PS AUX grep for ping. And so it kind of shortens our list a little more. And then we can go ahead and grab our PID. And then verify, you're done. Any questions on how to kill a process or pipe? Okay. So again, I'm using Google on all these. You'd want to use something else so we're not bogging down. All right, so let's do this. Okay. So we're going to ping Google. And we're going to write that out to a file. And we'll go to the other tab. And we're going to use the tail -F command for that file. And we should be able to watch that file grow. So we can come over here and we can pause this process by doing a Control-Z. Then do a BG to background that process. You can go over to tab 2. See that your log file is still growing. Go back over to tab 1, do a FG, which is going to bring the process up to the foreground, and do a Control-C to kill the process. Verify over here, which it stopped growing, and you can do a Control-C to get out of that. All right. Any questions? Okay, so the log file that you just created, once you count up the number of lines that's in that log file by doing the WC-L command and see what you have. So you can see by the first number, there was 43 lines in that log file. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is how to pull different information out of a file. And the first command we're going to talk about is cut. And the cut was going to use two different parameters. We're going to use the -D flag for the delimiter, which this is actually going to be the string or variable that we're using. And -F is going to be the number of fields that we're talking about. So if we go back to our file here, okay. So for example, in this file, if we want to grep out the IP address, let's see here. We're going to pipe this. We're going to cut with a delimiter of, for example, right here, we're going to do a colon, and we're going to say the first field. So we're saying that our delimiter is a colon, and the first field is everything to the left of that. If I change that to number 2, that's the other side of the equation. So our delimiter is the colon. So let's go back and look at our file again. Temp 2. So instead of using the colon, let's use the right parentheses here. So instead of that. Okay. So we still want to get our IP address. How do you think we could do, or what else could we expand this with to grab the IP address? What could be the next delimiter that we would use? Right. So a cut with a delimiter of left, and what field would we want to show? Second field, which would be to the right of that, which would give us the IP address. Okay. So sort -U is going to give us a unique for that. So if we just pipe that onto here, give us one iteration of our IP address. Any questions on that?
I drank way too much rum to be asking you any questions.
Please, go right ahead.
What is the meaning of life?
43? 42.
I'm drunk and I remember that. What the hell, man?
You're a professional. Okay, so that's the problem that we just went through there, was to grep out the IP address from the file that you should have already created.
Did you have read the man page on meaning of life? Because that might be something. Man, meaning of life.
All right, so the next command we're going to go over is the awk command. And what this is going to do with this first example right here, this is going to show us the first column only. And with the variable right here, $1 will show the first column. If we want to show two columns, they don't have to be side by side each other. It could be the first and the fifth column like that. And then give it the file name. So back to our example. Let's say that we only want to see the time and the milliseconds. We would do so the columns, obviously the delimiter here is a space, and we would want to go not ping. It's 8. Oh, got to give it a file name. Does everyone see how I came up with that? All right, so here's your first problem. I want you to ping a domain and show the 5 shortest and longest response times to that domain. And you'll do that by all the examples that I just gave you. And we'll give you 5 minutes to do this. Any questions?
I have some additions.
Absolutely.
So you should probably show C, when you're showing cut, you should show C, which is character number. So like you can cut from character 8 to character 12
Okay.
if you want to without setting a and you can set a delimiter. And so like if you only wanted the second and third letters.
Why don't you go ahead and I'll walk around and check.
Well, I'm
one
just
more thing.
saying, and then also in awk, you can set the delimiter as well.
Okay.
Just go ahead and hijack the presentation.
No, I was just giving him a couple.
No, no.
Just giving him a couple things to improve it. That's all. Just a couple extra flags. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
No. It's open as always.
I was just saying you could add some extra flags.
Do you know where to start? Okay, so the problem is up here. You want to show you want to ping a particular domain, and you want to write 2 files, and one would be the one with the shortest 5 response times, and one with the 5 longest response times. No, it doesn't have to be one solid line, no. What did you say?
This is about the time I step in. You need my help, right?
Absolutely, Dave. So to create your file, let's just say let's ping a particular domain 10 times with the C switch, which would be for count, and then pipe that out to your first file. That should be your first step. And again, pick something besides Google. Walk around and see.
Anybody have any questions? Well, Dave can't help. He was just asking.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't help it. We're gonna ask. But some parts of this class will be kind of boring because we have parts we have to go around and actually help the students. So bear with us. More content for the video watchers later on.
We're bringing in the poll soon for Adrian to do fillers.
As Adrian drinks more for the audience at home.
Oh,
He does a great man boob stripper pole
Is that off?
Not yet.
You mean drunken film?
Come on. I can't give Lee a hard time. I gotta give you one.
I give myself a hard time. What the hell?
It's just like the.
Okay, so what should be the second step in this equation? So, exactly. Sort of. Exactly. And then, or, exactly.
But in order to sort it correctly, you would have to cut off the time part so that only the numbers were the first characters. Otherwise, it wouldn't sort numerically.
Well, let's just try that out. Okay.
No, it's milliseconds. Well, this by point. This by points. It's what it
Does it handle points?
Actually, by
Right,
this
so-
sort in. He's
Is it
right.
just- is
He's right.
the number by
You want me to show you how I would do it?
Sure.
I mean, I'm just saying. So, well, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
No.
Okay. So first thing we did was we pinged a certain domain 10 times with the -c, pipe that output to a file. The next thing we need to do is isolate the last column, and we want to get just the numbers. So let's see here. Let's do a awk. Is it 9? That's 8. Okay, so here are numbers. We want to get just the numbers. So from right here, we're going to cut this file with a delimiter of equals, and we're going to give it field 2, and we're going to sort. Then we're going to sort that. Okay, and then you could say head, and right there is your top or your shortest response times, and right there are your longest. Any questions? Martin, how would you do that?
That's what I was going to do. Good job.
Thanks. Okay, so that's how we're going to do this. We're going to try to build individual each little steps and then give you problems to solve like that so we can just keep expanding and expanding. Okay, any questions so far? All right, so for example, next thing we're going to move on to is grep. This is going to be some very easy greps. So the first thing is a grep -v, and that's going to remove a single string from a line. So for example, if you wanted to remove every line that contained red, grep -v, then your string that you want right here, and then the file name. If you want to remove multiple lines with multiple variables, you would use the egrep -v in this fashion right here. So why don't someone pull down the whois information for a particular domain that they want. Oops, and pipe that out to a file. So if we cat that file, you can see it goes by very quick. So let's do the more command. And we can page through the file if we want. Okay, so in this file, let's say for example, let's say we want to grep for all of the name servers here. And we can see that so our string in this particular example we're going to use is just ns. So if we're going to cat our file, grep for ns, we're going to get a lot more than that. So let's grep for good thing. And then from that, grep for ns. Now, and we can use the grep minus V to get rid of lines that we don't want. So what would be a single delimiter character that we could use here to get rid of the lines that we don't care for? What? Yep. Okay. So now let's pipe that out and do a grep minus V. Let's do the plus sign instead of at. And there's our name servers. So take a moment and try to do that with the domain of your choice. And you could also sort those name servers there. And then just pipe that out to a file called what?
Yeah! Shut the fuck up! The question was, are they making too much noise?
The answer was,
Yeah! Shut the fuck up!
there you go. Okay. As I'm flying through a bunch of these offline, these one-liners, I will make the notes available to you right after this, so you don't have to worry about, flying down checking notes because I am moving kind of fast. Yes, sir.
I missed the entire presentation up to this point. Can you go back and cover what I missed?
Well, why don't all the
Check
cool,
online tomorrow morning.
Okay.
or all the cool guys that are in the back row could actually come up here and join the class, or not. John, you good? You frowning? Okay. You guys ready to move on, or do you want some help with this?
I need a lot of help.
I've been trying to help you for not 10 years, but a long time. Freaknik 8?
Yeah, we're the 2005 one. I think we passed in the hallway.
Yes.
Got to know each other somewhat in 2006.
Yeah. This was when Adrian was walking around. The first time I ran to him was at Freaknik in Nashville, Tennessee. He was walking around the conference in a full-length trench coat, carrying around his pint of Everclear, which he was drinking straight. Yeah, and I was like,
That came later.
yeah.
Took some electrical engineering.
And this man finished that pint and was still walking, and I won't say talking, but
Not coherently.
he was still functioning that in the night, and I was like, I want to hang out with that guy. Okay, any questions on the files that we've created so far? Okay. So for example, if we want to open up, let's see, two. Wait a minute. There we go. By the way, if you ever done a who is on Google, you can take a look at all the crazy other names here that people have registered here. Google, get $1 million at blah, blah, blah.com. Anyway, all the major sites like Google, I think Apple's got theirs stripped out, but if you go to Microsoft, it's the same type of thing. Well, let's just do that. Let's use this as the name that we're going to grep by, and everybody do a who is on Microsoft. Pull that down to a file, grep out the server name, and then show me a list of all the funny titles that they have for domain names. That's your next exercise. And start reading those out once you find them. Isn't that funny? Is anyone finding anything? Okay, so out of that list that you just pulled down, the who is. Okay, so out of that who is, why don't you create an IP list of all of the servers for the domains that are registered. We want one IP, or one list rather, one file with nothing but IP addresses. Once you do that, I want you to sort the IP addresses. And you're going to run into a problem with the sort and see if you can use Google to find the answer, how to correctly sort IPs. Bill, you getting all this? Okay. Awesome. Who is? Bill, you done? How's it going? getting there.
Is this the single attack, right? That's
Yeah.
double quotes. Regrep minus view, does that take off the IP address?
Well, first of all, you did a grep for IP, so let's go back. Right to there. Hit that, enter. Awesome. There's your list. Now, let's do now there's two ways we could solve this problem. The IPs are in the third column. So what would you use for the columns? Awk. That's okay, so do an awk, space, tac, yep, and then the squiggly bracket. Then print. No space. There you go. Space, $sign, the column number. No space. Okay, squiggly line, quote. No, it's the squiggly line, that little thing right there, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then
Or should that be on the first one too?
yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you were on that. Okay, and then do a quote at the end. I'm sorry, not a quote. Yeah, let's try that. See what we got. Good job. Okay, now let's sort those correctly. Okay, good job. How you doing?
Trying to get the awk down.
Okay, so why don't you expand that window out so we can see a little bit more. There you go. All right, so now there's two ways to do this. Let's do it with the awk first. What column is the IP addresses in?
It's separated by spaces. The third.
Awesome. So give me the third column.
That's what I was
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So you want to do a quote, I'm sorry, apostrophe, then the squiggly line, which is above the bracket. Yeah, above the bracket.
You want a single quote?
Yeah. Then the squiggly line, which is above the bracket. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah. Then you want to print, space, $sign, the column number, squiggly line, tick, enter. Awesome. There's your list. Now,
That's what I meant as far as the awk.
okay. Does that make sense?
Simpler awk than it is.
All right.
What's
So,
the syntax?
Yeah, right. Oh. I'm sorry?
Do the other delimiters, like instead of just doing the print column, like is it dash F, dash D? How do you set it up that way? Is that only with set?
So, for example, if we want to do that, we could use the delimiter of a colon.
Yeah. So what is it? What is it?
So to the left of that is field 1. To the right of the delimiter is field 2.
And how do you set it on dash D like that?
Go up.
Dash
So,
D.
first of all, it's a cut, not awk.
All right, that was no problem. Never mind.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
You got it?
We're actually working on the CTF.
Oh, cool. You doing all right? Awesome. Got it sorted. Sweet. You got the thing. All right. You doing okay?
Oh, yeah.
You get it? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so like I said before, there's a couple different ways that you can solve the same problem. One, we can use the awk method, which I'm going to show first. So, for example, what I did was here I just cat the whois I've already pulled down. I did a grep for IP. The next thing I want is the third column. Oops. Now, here in my example, you can see that I've got a couple of lines that actually have text in them. So a common theme with each one of those is Google. So I could pipe that out. How can I get rid of Google from that right there? Exactly. grep minus v. And then did anybody else recognize what I just did? Is anybody paying attention? So one of the things that I asked you to do was look up on Google to figure out the correct way to sort an IP address. No, what I did was I created an alias with that right there, with what the command is for that. And with that alias, I just sorted it because I constantly have to sort IP addresses. And we'll go over into creating aliases a little bit earlier. But you can see that's, just wanted you to see how I did that. All right, so the next method of doing that, we want to, instead of using the awk method, we're going to use the cut method. So with this one, I would use cut with a delimiter of colon, whoops, with field 2. And then sort that correctly. I've got one Google in there, so I can, let's just do this. grep minus v. Bam. I did not. I have not showed the alias yet. Thank you. Any questions so far? So again, multiple ways to solve the same problem. We can use the cut method or the awk method. Whatever works best for you, that's what you use. You know, because someone will come up behind me and I'll be doing something, and Dave will, irrelevant when I share some code with Dave, he's like, dude, why are you using cut? Why don't you just use awk? I'm like, does it work? Is it working? Yeah, but, like, but what?
Find is a very powerful command. Wait till you get to that one.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to give a couple quick things here with SED. We could teach an entire class on SED. Some stuff later that I'm going to give you will be a bunch of SED one-liners. If you actually do a Google search for SED one-liners, there's a lot of great sites that are out there that'll give you stuff. And when you see the full-blown demo at the very end, I use these throughout all my scripts. So a couple that I'm going to show you here real quick. How you would read this is SED, and then the S is for substitute, and it's going to say replace foo with bar every time you have that in your domain, or I'm sorry, in your file. So for example, if we go back to our IP address right here, let's just pipe this out to a file, IPs, so cat IPs. So if I want to do a SED, and substitute 10 for 209. Copy my own notes here. So let's see. Yeah. And then let's do that. Okay, so 10. The reason that you could do this, say for example, if you're doing a lot of times in a pen test report, you need to redact actual information when you report, because this report's going to be circulated to a lot of people. So for example, if the class C that you're working on for the client, the first octet is 219. I'm just throwing that out there. So to redact this, how could we use this exact example to redact this information for a report? Where we could set the same type of, present the same type of information in a useful manner, but sanitize it.
You want to change the first number.
Thank you, Mr. Klug. Did anyone hear what Dave said? You would use sed, so if the first octet was 219, and in this report we want to show all the vulnerable web servers, but we want to sanitize it, so we replace 219 with 10 or with 192, because those are restricted IP addresses, and then you could put a screenshot of that for your report. Globally. Replace them globally. Correct. So for example, I'm sorry, what did you say, Dan?
To follow on with what you were saying, that third example would be what you would use to replace the first octet.
Right. Only.
So yes, only. One thing only.
That's right. So again, SED's very powerful. We could have an entire course for that, and I'll give you a ton of one-liners for SED later. Sorry. Color. This is a quick way to add color into your framework, which we're going to be basically setting up later. Here are your basic colors right here: red, green, yellow, blue, magenta, and cayenne. And for placing those in, you're going to do an echo minus E. And then right here is your data that you'll put in. Where we can see in this example, we're using blue, which is 34. So for example, if we copy this and go over here. Very simple. And if we want to change that to yellow, okay. Again, very simple, but when we start setting up a framework later and we start showing different sections and stuff, it helps break things up for the eye. When you're doing, say for example, if the user doesn't give you any input when you ask for it and you want to return an error, you might return the error in red, for example. Okay, very easy with color. So first thing we're going to do is, next thing is going to be write our first bash script. So let's get rid of some of this stuff. I would leave that. So we want to create our file, and we'll call this test.sh. So whenever you start out with bash, you want to do a shebang, which is pound, exclamation mark, bin, bash. And we're going to clear the screen. So basically clearing the screen, like I said, that has to start with right here with the shebang bin bash. And we're going to echo hello world. So Control X to get out. Save the modified buffer. Yes. Do we want to save to the same file name we just created? Yes. So just hit enter. All right. So we've got our file right here. Now there's a couple ways to make this file executable. One way, do the chmod, you can do a 755 in the file name. And then to execute or run that bash script, we do a period / name, and it runs your script. Any questions on how to create a script and to make it executable? Okay. You need to be keeping up because the script's going to just keep expanding and expanding. So go ahead and create your first script.
So everybody understand what the octal configuration for executable is, why 755? read, write, execute, the read bit is worth 4, the write bit is worth 2, and the execute bit is worth 1. So if you add that up, read, write, execute for user, group, and world,
Mhm.
755. So 7 means read, write, execute, 5 means read, execute for group, and the second 5 means read, execute for the world, for any user. That's a discretionary access control. End user can set
Thank you,
that.
sir. Another way to do that is do a chmod plus X and the file name. Oh my God, that's terrible.
You don't like mead? You don't like mead?
No, I like Jordan. So the two ways to make the file executable, like Dave said, do a chmod. Those two ways right there. Any questions on how to make your file executable? Okay, so everyone's got their file. We're going to start building out from here, right? Right? Awesome. Next thing we're going to talk about is variables. So, a couple different types of variables. We can do a hard variable. So, for example,
Come on, anybody go raid a village with me tonight? Village to village. Come on, bring some meat. You need some meat? All right. Go raid the village later on.
okay, so we're back to the it's kind of hard to compete with him. So let's do a hard variable with the name equals your name, then echo $, the variable name.
Sorry interrupted.
So if I just did echo name, it would just write name, but I need the string in front of it for the variable, and it's going to give that back. So now let's use a type of system parameter right here. We're going to say set the user to who is logged in. And to get who is logged in, you use the who am I. And then we want to echo user root. Does that make sense? All right, your next exercise is to create a bash script. You're just basically going to delete your hello world, or you can keep your hello world and expand it to that. I want to say hello, your name. Then I want to say you are running as however you're logged in. So you're going to set two variables, and then you're going to echo that out to a sentence. Yeah. So you're going to set a hard variable of your name. Set the hard variable of your name. Then you're going to set the variable user, which is going to be the user permissions as you're logged in, or the user that you're logged into your particular machine as. And then I want you to echo a line out that says something like, hello, Lee, you're logged in as root. Here's your answer.
What else you gonna mix with Raiding Villages?
Any questions on how I came up with that? John, you're squinting. Okay, I want to expand on that script right there. I want you to use part of the first line. Hello, your name. Instead of saying what you're logged in as, I want you to say, hello, Lee, your IP address is, and what your IP address is. So we're going to need to create a variable now, just like we used the who am I before. We're going to use ipconfig. Or I'm sorry, ifconfig. Thank you. And you're going to have to do some cutting. You're going to have to use some grep. First, we're going to have to set the variable. Inside of that variable, you're going to have to grep for the IP address line. Then you're going to have to use cut to get that exact IP address and set all that into a variable. You're going to change that one line to this. Now you got to figure out what the IP address variable is. So let's work through this in pieces because I see a lot of people squinting. Okay. So first of all, how are we going to bring up our IP address? ifconfig. Okay, you can see my IP address here. So you can see that there are two lines with IP addresses. What is different about one of the lines that I can guarantee the IP address from my active interface? There you go, broadcast. Okay, so let's do an ifconfig shoot, how about just up? We're going to grep for that line. You should be following along here. Okay. Now we need to grab our IP address. What column is our IP address in? What? So let's do, yeah, so let's do an awk. Again, there's a couple ways to do this. I'm just going to use awk. So awk. This is what we've got so far now. How are we going to grab just our IP address from this? Right. So tell me what we're going to do. After this, pipe cut with a delimiter of colon. And what field are we wanting to show? F2. Bam. There's your IP address. Bam. So we're going to take all that line that we created right there, and we're going to stick that into a variable. So we're going to go right here. Copy this. Let's see here. So let's do IP equals this. And those little things are the back tick, which is right underneath the tilde, which should be like the top left key on your keyboard. And I'm going to modify this a little bit. Echo your IP address is everyone see how I set that variable? Did IP equals backtick, the line that we got from the previous example, another backtick. And we're going to echo out your IP address is pound variable. There we go. Again, we're just building on everything that we've learned. And that's the great thing about Bash. Start out extremely simple and then start doing something very useful. So right now you have a little test. So let's just rename this script to my IP. And then we can run my IP. There you go. Anyone find this useful? All right. So we did a hard-coded IP. Let's see, we didn't do my name here. So let's do nano, my IP. And come down here. Did echo hello world. I'm going to put a couple echoes here. Name equals Lee config. Do a couple more echoes. There's your script. Any questions on how I came up with that? So let's expand on this script like we just did. So the next thing I want to know is I want your script to say hello world, and then I want a couple different lines. I want the name, your name, the say IP address, and then your interface, and then the interface that you have. Yes. So you're going to add one additional variable. And the line that we created to do, let's see. Shoot. So this line right here, I can tell you right now, you're going to start with your ifconfig and then start parsing from there. And yeah, just double click on the line and hit Shift Control C, Shift Control V. Got it? All right, so let's see how we can do this. Okay. So I'm going to do. All right, so how are we going to get our interface here?
I did a config pipe grep node for our hardware adder.
So, all right, say a little louder.
Grep for capital HW and lowercase ADR. Because
Okay.
you don't get and then show your hardware address on the loopback interface. And then
What else could you have used? Ethernet. Okay. So right there. And we're going to use awk. And what are we going to give it? What column? Yep. Right there. That's how we got our... There we go. So let's mod this just a little bit more. Like I said, to get rid of text on one line, just hit Control K. Okay, we'll get rid of that. And okay, so let's also check for network connectivity here. Let's expand this script and let's go ahead and add in our ping to Google. And I want you to tell me, I want you to ping Google 10 times. And I want you to tell me your, just like we have name, Lee, user, I don't have a user right there, IP, interface. I want you to say fastest response time, slowest response time. So it's 2 additional variables.
how many pings do you want them to do?
10.
You want the top shortest response time.
Huh?
Shortest and longest.
Yes, shortest and longest only.
really gonna enjoy watching this when I'm silver.
What's up? Oh.
There we go.
Okay, see how I set up the variables, or at least for the print output there? I'm just using short and long. The code that you created earlier, you should be able to copy and paste almost literally into these right here. So obviously we need to create a temp file. We want to ping Google minus 3. Oops. 10 times. Okay, so you're going to ping Google 10 times right here. I'm going to pipe that out to a file. Whoops. Like that. So we're going to grep for the lines with byte. So we return only the lines that show response times. So we did grep temp. And now we want to get just the response time. So let's do a cut with a delimiter of equals. Give me field 2. Whoops. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm going to do that. Do awk, sorry. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 8. Okay. And then to clean that up, what am I going to do? Cut with a delimiter of equals. And I'm going to do field 2. That's going to give us our times. So we've got a space in there. We want to get rid of that space. So every other line has a period in it. So let's just do, I'm sure Martin's laughing at me in the next room. Grep for a period. There we go. And then sort. There we go. Now, how do we get the very first line? Exactly. So so this is our base right here. Actually, I'm going to do head minus 1. And your slowest time. Bam. So let's copy these. Yes, sir.
I want to mention, working with Jimmy here, found something very interesting is that the sort
Yep.
does not work from a numerical perspective, it works from a character perspective. Is it dash G? Dash G? Yeah. Okay. Try that one.
Sort dash G will put it in the place because otherwise it uses it's a text string.
Yeah.
It's very strange. Not strange, but annoying.
Worth knowing. Yes.
There you go. So let's give a lot of times when you run scripts, like it paused right there, and the user's going, oh, did it crash? Did I lose network connectivity? What's going on? You need to give some feedback to the user. So let's come up here. Once we ping Google, let's tell the user what we're doing. Okay. Please wait. Okay. So, hello world. Hey, please wait while I generate some data. So when you do bigger scripts, say for example, if you're using Carlos Perez's tool and you're doing a DNS brute forcing, sometimes that can take up to 15 minutes. Most people are not going to sit there and wait 15 minutes and go, ugh, is this crashing? What's going on? So when you get to a part like that probably took 10 seconds, time that out, average it out, go, hey, this process is going to take about 15 seconds. Please wait. The user goes, oh, cool. All right, everything's good, and the data comes back. Any questions? Again, we're still building on the same script, so hope you're keeping up. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is getting input from the user. So for example, for that, We're going to use the read with the -P switch. And like I said all the time, don't keep pinging Google like I am. Let's make the script now ask you what you want to ping. Okay? So using this line right here, we're going to add that into our script. So it's going to say, hello world, and you're going to ask for input from the user. What domain would you like for me to test? You're going to read the input. Instead of just domain right here, it's going to say what domain would you want to test. Read the domain, and where you pinged Google the last time, or whatever it was I used Google, you're going to use that variable, which is domain, instead of Google. I'll lose you. Oops. -C for count. So I want to move some of this stuff around a little bit. Actually, I'm going to pull this up in gedit since I want to cut and copy and paste some stuff. Okay. So I want to put all my variables up top. So, echo. And then I use So I'm just making this a little pretty as I go. So what am I going to do here? So instead of ping right here, what am I going to replace this with? Exactly. Everyone see that? So we're going to read user echo hello world. Oops. Please use the domain to ping. And it's going to read the input from the user right here. Separate this out. Please wait while I generate some data. And it's going to ping the domain 10 times that the user entered. So let's try that. All right. So now you can go, okay, let's test my internet connection. We know Apple servers are probably in Cupertino, California. That's West Coast. Let's think of something on the East Coast that we want to test our response time. How about the New York Times? And so on and so forth. How about Texas Instruments down in Texas? Okay, so what happened here?
Very quick response times.
see here. What did we do wrong? Okay, so we've got a mistake in our script now, so let's start troubleshooting it. Quick way, let's see if that we're creating or getting the actual input from the user correctly and creating our temp file. Let's stop right there. So I'm just going to put in an exit. Okay, that way we don't have to fool with the rest of the script. So
Another way you might do that is to print $domain.
right. So let's do.
See what that variable is equal to at that point. You know, there's a lot of different, as Lee mentioned right up front, there's a lot of different ways to do the same exact thing. And it might sound strange, but printf is a very powerful debugger. With a lot of print statements in, or echo statements in this case. You can figure out where in your code you're not doing what you think you're doing.
Okay, so we know that the variable was correct, that we did ping Apple. What's our problem? Or, no, we didn't use the internet connection, because if we lost the internet connection, it would not have resolved the IP address. What's our problem? Apple's blocking pings. Good job. All right, so now that we know that our script is working correctly, let's take this back out. Save this. Let's run IP, and let's do Google again. So when your scripts start getting long, like Dave was talking about, debugging becomes very, very important. Look at your script. When you start to add pieces in, what's going to happen? Hey, look, our script worked. Cool. So it's very important to start being able to debug your scripts and debug quickly. And the easiest way for that is, like Dave said, either echo that variable out in this particular example to make sure that we capture the variable correctly, or put an exit in and test along the way. All right, so what happens if we ask for user input and the user hits enter? We got to be able to check for any user input. Okay? So, we're going to do that with this right here. We're going to check to see if there was anything for the domain. If the domain was empty, which is what the -z switch is saying, then echo invalid choice. Okay? So check for no user input. Let's grab this. And let's put this over right here. So let's put it right before here. Whoops. So basically it's saying if the domain is empty from the user, print invalid choice and then exit the script. If the domain has input in it, continue with the script. So let's test this out. Asking for input, we hit enter. Oh, fail. Invalid choice. Okay? So like we were talking about with color earlier, this is a great place to put in color. So let's come up here and use this example right here. Copy this, and we know that red is 31. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay, so let's come up here and let's use this as a choice. And I'm just going to modify this a little bit up here. And we said our is 31 instead of 34, so it's red. And we're going to replace this with, no, yeah, sure. Okay, let's try that. Bam. There we go. Again, all these little simple things there, it's like, why the hell do I want to color some script? Well, if you want to scream at the user, get their attention. For example, when I'm setting environmental variables, when I do a Wi-Fi cracking script, it might say, what interface are you wanting to use? And I type in ETH0, and it might read that back to me later and say, I'm setting your interface to ETH0, and I might say that to yellow, so that the program is talking back to me. Any questions? Okay. Okay. That's all I got, guys. Thanks. Any questions? I'll be around all weekend. Just bring your laptop up to me. There'll be a link for this, which I'll for all these notes that I will give to Adrian that he can post up on irongeek.com, where you can download this stuff. And there'll also be a link to a bunch of bash scripts that I've written that are very, very complex. And then you'll be able to go through these bash scripts and take a look at each individual little pieces that I've shown you here in class, where you can help expand your stuff. Great way about learning and expanding your bash scripts is look at other people's code. Take a look at it. So I'm going to give you examples to all my code, modify it, change it, beat it up, learn and share. Any questions? All right. Thanks a lot.